Awesome. Hi, everyone. Today we're going to go over chapters 11-14 and a bit on the informative outline we'll go over a little bit, as that'll be due sometime later this month. I can't remember the exact date. I'd recommend checking the course syllabus. So specifically, we're going to go over speaker anxiety, the presentational speaking process, narrowing topics, and developing an initial preview, and supporting initial previews. So what is speaker anxiety? So this is also known as communication apprehension, and so that just kind of is the real or perceived fear or anxiety related to public speaking. It can be anything from like severe anxiety that like prevents people from being able to speak in front of large groups, or it can even just be like the idea that you just don't want to do it, you're not going to like it, anything really like that. So when college students were asked to rank their top fears, public speaking is often one of those fears. You know, if you think about the first day of school or of classes when you have to introduce yourself and you talk about your age, your major, your name, your pronouns, and everything like that. Or when you have to work as a group and present, usually students have the hardest time with presenting projects and public speaking. So some symptoms of communication apprehension are fast heartbeats, butterflies, shaking your hands and knees, quivering voices. It can kind of be anything that ends up making your speech seem, actually, I would more so say symptoms of like anxiety from speaking, and those just kind of look different for every person. So how can you manage communication apprehension? The most important one, I would say, is to be prepared. The book also suggests that you know how to develop a presentation, focusing on your audience, your message, mental pep talk, and then public speaking experience. So while I think all of them are very important, I do think being prepared is the top one. I've noticed the only way I can really become good at public speaking and feel real comfortable with the information is after recording it and talking about it, and you know, just becoming really comfortable with what needs to be done. That way, when it's time to talk, you're not just worried and like constantly reading off of your outline. And that way you can kind of go with the flow, and it's less anxiety inducing. I personally think so, at least. So what is the speaking process? Let's get all that out there. So what you'll do is you will select and narrow a topic. You'll identify your purpose. Then you'll develop your central idea and initial preview. You'll generate main ideas using supporting material. You'll organize the presentation, rehearse, and then deliver. It seems pretty simple, but we'll kind of go more into detail about each of those steps. So while you are going about making your speech, one thing you always want to take into consideration is your audience, and you always want to be audience centered. And so basically that just means that you want to adapt your speech to your audience throughout the entire process. And so one of the assignments is going to be about, it's the audience adaptation plan, and you will go in and you'll talk about what you're thinking of doing for your presentation, and other people will give you feedback, and you will basically adjust that feedback to fit what other people suggest. And so just being audience centered is very important, and they go over this in more detail on page 93 in the guidebook and 254 on the textbook. So starting off with your purpose, there's three main types of purposes. For our speech, we're only doing informative, and we'll get into persuasive speeches later on in the semester when we do the group project. But right now, we're going to be focusing on informing. And so that is obviously, you know, the purpose is to inform. You want to basically have the point of your speech be about knowledge and information transfer. You are going to want to teach the class something new, preferably that we wouldn't know about otherwise, and something that you would find passionate. You know, it's never fun to do a project on something that you don't like. And so a specific purpose is going to be a concise statement of what listeners should understand, believe, feel, or be able to do by the time the speaker finishes the presentation. And for our speech, that basically just, we'll get into more detail. The example I give later is about red wine. And so you'll basically just want your concise, specific purpose to be like, I want the audience to know about blank, blank, blank. I would like, or the audience should be able to do blank, blank, and blank. And so moving on to the central idea. The central idea is what you want your audience to understand. Your purpose is to teach, analyze, describe, compare, and contrast, and or illustrate on a topic. So this will be similar to your purpose statement, but this is going to be a more overview of what your speech is going to be about. And so this is the definitive point about your topic. And you should tell us because it's important. You know, it's the overarching idea that's driving your presentation. What is the main thing that we should be taking away? Think of your central idea as the statement that basically gives the audience a key into the entire speech. And so the initial preview, and how does it reflect on the central idea? All right, so an initial preview builds off the central idea and is phrased in the form of an assertion. An initial preview indicates your topic is true, interesting, or valuable. An initial preview identifies the main points of your speech. And so the initial preview is basically going to be your thesis of the speech. It's going to kind of take us through what you're going to talk about specifically. I don't know if you have all had the opportunity to look at the guidebook and the rubric and the outline just yet, but essentially your initial preview, once you look at the assignment in closer detail, it'll basically summarize the three body points. Cool. And then how do you narrow a topic and develop an initial preview? So starting off, you do want to start with something interesting. Like I said, it's never fun to do a project on something that you don't enjoy. And so I would recommend picking something, whether that be movies you like, hobbies that you do, something that you feel qualified that you could teach someone about and talk about for, 5 to 7 minutes. So informative presentations tend to focus on objects, people, events, ideas, and like I said, hobbies too. Really just kind of depends on what you want, and it's okay to change your topic later, but I will kind of need to be aware if you do end up changing it. So for an example, we're gonna go over wine. So a broad topic is types of wine. And so within that, you could pick 3 possible subtopics. There's red wine, there's white wine, there's port wine. And then you can keep narrowing it further. So new topic, instead of doing types of wine, because that can get a bit broad, it's too you can't talk about every single type of wine in 5 to 7 minutes. So instead, we'll focus on red wine. And so then the 3 body points will become, so for example, I'll go ahead and give out what a little speech about red wine in this case would look like. So for example, today we're going to talk about red wine, and I'm going to go over Pinot Noir, Merlot, and Cabernet. And these 3 types of red wine are different because blah, 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 according to blah, 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 blah. Or you can talk about Pinot Noir because they're all very differing topics. And you can talk about how it's made, where it's grown, and what food it pairs with. So compared to the one before, this example would more so be, okay, so today we're going to talk about Pinot Noir. We're going to go over how it's made, where it's grown, and what food it pairs with. And that's something that you'd be able to do well and develop in detail within the time limit. All right. And then going into the 3 main points, like I said, so Pinot Noir is a popular, tasty red wine. In order to understand Pinot Noir as a type of red wine, I'd like to go over how it's made, where it's grown, and what kinds of foods it pairs with. And so that's the central idea in combo with the initial preview. And like I said, this can look different depending on what you're trying to do with your speech. All right, and so how do you support the central idea in initial preview? So you'll start by defining terms, concepts, things that we may not necessarily understand. So for example, fermentation and the aspect of dryness with wine. Then you'll describe or illustrate ideas. So they're stomping grapes, because not everyone necessarily knows that. And then you'll provide explanations. So in this case, it would explain how it's made. You can offer statistics, expert opinions, and basically this is just going to be your supporting evidence. And so for every single point that you make within your speech, as mentioned, there's going to be 3 main points that you have to make for your topic, and each point will need a piece of evidence. You'll need a source, and you'll need to cite someone for that for support information. It's part of it's part of the rubric. And so they have a sample outline on 103 for in-text citations, and I'd recommend looking over the outline. I think it really helps to look at other examples to see what other students have done in the past and to kind of model what yours should look like in exchange. And then page 83 also has a reference on citations as well, and how to do that on a references page. Okay, so for our informative presentation, we're going to go over this a little bit here. I will also, as we get further into the assignment, I will make a video detailing just like I did for the diversity video, I will basically go into detail and explain the assignment more. But the reason we kind of do speeches, in addition to it being one of the things students, don't really, even though students don't really like it, is the employability behind it. And so basically that just means that learning how to present and learning how to do research and learning how to present that research is really, really important. If you think in the real world, unfortunately, due to a lot of various norms and expectations, or I guess fortunately, depending on how you look at it. But essentially, you will have to learn how to do this eventually, and so this is a really good stepping stone in order to learn how to do it in a creative way. So the time is going to be 5 to 7 minutes, and so you'll be deducted a point if you are 30 seconds under or over. Up to 5 points can be taken off. So I'd really recommend trying to stay within that time frame of 5 to 7 minutes. You will have to have 3 main points, like I said, and you'll have 3 credible sources for all. And then where will the grade come from? 15 points will go for the outline. The audience adaptation plan is actually in the forums now for its own grade, so kind of ignore that. The 15 points is just for the preparation outline. 5 points are going to be for the speaking notes, and 100 points is going to be for the oral presentation. And so these are some really important pages in the guidebook that will help you prepare for the assignments. Page 107 will have the topic selection. Page 111 will have the initial outline assessment form. Page 113 has the audience adaptation plan. And then there are sample outlines from page 115 to 130. So I believe there's 3 different types of speech examples. And then you can ignore the blank forms due because that's for in person and we are fully online. So all of it will be due via Canvas. And so thank you for watching this video today, and I hope you all have a great day.